Um, yeah, so semantic UI is like a front-end framework that uses a combination of both JavaScript and CSS. The way that Tony is using it is just for some basic theming
Yeah.
on some of his UI elements, so that's why we're only taking the CSS part of it. The reason why this CDN has like a minified version of all of it and individual parts is because you might only want to use a button, for example, and
Mm.
in which case it would be much cheaper to just take the button rather than the whole thing. I think we can get away with.
Are you familiar with Tailwind CSS?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
some
that's flavour of the month, isn't it?
yeah. I've forgotten what sets it apart in terms of, although there's not much differentiators between these things.
I think it's because I think it's probably because JavaScript developers like like shiny new things, and that's why there's so many JavaScript frameworks and libraries. I think you know the out of the tar pit problem that Lisps have,
Yeah.
And some people say that JavaScript is like a kind of a Lisp. Maybe it's the tar pit as well.
Have you seen JavaScript's latest state management? Because they like state management libraries as well in the JavaScript world and changing it every week. So the latest one is called Recoil. And
So it's called. Did you say recall?
yeah, Recoil. It's underneath the Facebook sort of brand.
Okay.
So people are paying attention to it. But yeah, it's got things like atoms in it. I don't know if you've
Okay.
heard of atoms before.
Not in the JavaScript sense.
No, well
Oh,
they're pretty much the same as the Clojure script sense.
oh, okay.
They've basically just reinvented reagent. I think is that how they did that. Because like
Good luck to them.
they're getting there. They're getting
Yeah.
there. Okay, so I think that's worked because my styling has changed in a small way.
Sorry, I didn't see what changes you made on the HTML side. So you have got one. Aha.
Yeah.
Could you put that as a comment if you haven't already?
Yeah.
Ah. But you've got a title as well. Very good stuff. So you've just called your title Fulcro 2?
Yeah, it can be anything. That wasn't in the videos. I can't remember why I did that. Should we swap back to you now that we've figured that bit out?
Yeah, let me just refresh to see if I've got it.
Okay.
I think I have. Yeah, I have. Okay, so what? Okay, So yeah, I've made that change on mine as well. So on your Fulcro page, semantic UI, we've got that. How to put styles inline. We've got as your next.
Okay.
task.
Yeah. So that one was the second argument to say a call to div can be a map. If you put a map as the second argument.
Yeah.
Sorry, the first argument is what I meant to say.
Yeah, in the same way that the button has got a map.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you put a key of style in, and then the value of that is a map that contains a keyword that says color.
Okay.
And then the value could be like a string of red or blue or whatever. You save that, you should see that live update on your page, I think.
I'll just jump. Yeah. Then red.
Cool. What was that?
Okay. So. Do you know what? I don't do much JavaScript, which you can probably tell. But the one thing that I really worry about in this world of components that reactors come along is it mixes three things at once, and in the old days these three things it wasn't good form. So the three things that are mixing are JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Okay, now HTML, this is like the presentation layer, the HTML. So that's magically hidden for us, and I think in the long run it's less code, it's prettier. The on-click here, we can probably pull that out somehow, which we may come to. This make older. One thing we should be considering is like I18N, so we can like even parameterize that, so we can switch languages if we want to. But this style here, I mean, this needs pulling out into maybe something that we're going to require. So we've got merge. So we've got our mutations. So why don't we do something like app file?
So there's a couple of things going on there. So styles, I've seen that, in the Clojure script world, we've got something called Garden, which is sort of CSS as data. I've seen that there's a library for Garden in Fulcro. And I think it's a case of putting. I haven't looked deeply into it, and it's not in the I'm just following the video at the moment, where it's very sort of like do a dumb thing and then like maybe make it better. Like it seems to be that's how it works in the video at least, because the inline style stuff he deletes that pretty shortly after he does it. He just sort of shows it off kind of thing.
Okay.
Because if you come along to the framework and don't understand that you can do that, then it's his job to tell you that you can do it, not that you should do it, perhaps. So I agree with you. The styling isn't ideal there. We might also get to the point where we can check out that library, and I think the styles. Yeah, I'm not going to guess, but I think the styles are component based rather than like inline like that. And the other thing that you mentioned that was important, the translation stuff. I think that's what you're alluding to. I've forgotten what it's called now.
I18N. It's called. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
It's I18N because in the word internationalisation, there's 18 characters in between those two.
Okay.
Internationalisation. That's why it's called I18N.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Okay. So if I get a name style, which is just oops, then what we can do is delete that.
Just put the symbol there instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's many ways of. So what I was going to say there, that I've seen that under the official Fulcro stuff, there is I don't know what the word is. I'm going to say package for the internationalization stuff.
Okay.
So that there is a solution for that under Fulcro, and
the other thing that makes me itchy about this page, what we've got here, we've got ID, and at the moment we're using ID as a number. So one, we ought to switch that to UUID, and two, we ought to start thinking about something like CSRF tokens to make sure we're not fiddling with other people's data.
Yeah, I've not seen anything about the tokens yet, but yeah, that's quite common, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, yeah, so if you've got the Fulcro book open, there is mention of CRF tokens in there.
Okay.
So it's covered. He mentions some middleware to do it, and even if he mentions some middleware, but I think until we actually do it ourselves, we won't really have a grip on it. So I think that's worth visiting later.
At the moment, we don't really have a server, do we? We obviously do, but we're not. Yeah, how is that? We're relying on Shadow CLJS's dev server to serve our resources at the moment. We're not in control of our server per se.
Yeah.
We will be getting a server, and then we can start embedding those tokens and stuff.
And at the moment, our client CLJS, we're just really living in a JavaScript world, and JavaScript world, and maybe we should be thinking of doing it both Java and JavaScript. So we switch to CLJS as soon as we can.
Yeah, potentially. No. I don't know if server-side... I know server-side rendering's in the book, but I don't know if it's in the video series or not. We're certainly focusing on this at the moment from a perspective of it is a single-page app, but server-side rendering isn't out of the question, I don't think.
I'm not that fussed about us doing the server-side rendering. I think the reason for, my understanding is doing server-side rendering is if just maybe some occasional performance issues. If you're, but rendering all this on the client side, to me, is fine. I think I'd have to understand the use case for having more server-side rendering.
Yeah.
But I'd like us to sort of be able to build something that's like a decent-sized app, not necessarily any great scale, but like a login form, some security around it, and maybe an app that does something simple.
Yeah.
that sort of hits all the target of a standard website.
Yeah, we should be able to hit all of that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking about the styling stuff earlier.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, a lot, I guess this is how it works, but we're about to move on to syntax for adding classes to DOM elements. And then I assume the garden integration will let you define CSS with data, which could have the matching classes to give you the appropriate rules. But it would be next to the component, I think.
Have you used Garden CSS?
No, but it's very easy conceptually to understand.
Yeah, I've used it a long time ago, and it was fine.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I really liked about your approach about doing it the hard way and doing it from nothing, and we add where we need it the files. So if we go back to the deps.eden, our deps.eden's really small.
Yeah.
So we've only got this so far. We've not got many dependencies, and I think that's a pretty cool thing, pretty good. So just Garden becomes yet another dependency, and I think if we're going to use Garden, we'd have to be using it for. It's got to be a better alternative than just having our own map of styles. I mean, if I switch back to here, although we've got a name style, when that name style, when you can just pull all these styles into a big map or some kind of like data log kind of, so its own little database, and then have a style. So have a map somewhere, or a database of styles, and then we interact with a set of helper functions here for getting it, and then the name style, we just pass in, do you want name style, and it will get from the map all the criteria for the name style, and then bang, it just puts it in there. And to me, that's better than Garden. You've got more to it, but and also it's something that can be hot swapped.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think either approach is. Yeah, there's 100 ways to cut this in terms of doing styling.
And I'd be keen to see what you're saying. I need to actually watch the videos. So you said he actually removed this style in the end. So if that's not there, that style's not there, how does it get injected into?
Okay, should we? If you delete that map, we'll sort of follow along in that sense.
Okay. So the other question is, once we've got this map here, it doesn't do anything like IB.
It should do. It probably does work like that. Yeah. You could probably inspect your page and then see that, maybe.
I wonder if you could do like, I mean, no, does Tony in his demo do anything like that for giving IDs to?
So actually, it's a good point actually, because the first thing he does is he does class name. So if you were to, and this is a bit weird if you're used to just pure HTML. If in that map you replace ID with a keyword that says class name, but in camel case, as opposed, yeah.
Okay.
And then the value would be a string of whatever you want the class to be. The reason why it's camel case is because this is actually going through React's
I see, yeah.
layer, and they use
Yeah.
camel case for class name there, as opposed to just class as it would be in pure HTML.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the first demonstration. Like, this map goes through to React as a list of attributes on the component, which is why class name works, and there'll be anything that you can think of, I suppose, from the HTML world, but also everything from the React world that goes through attributes as well probably works here.
Yeah.
If
and
you,
so that class name, so I've got a person name.
Yeah.
So you can still have just multiple classes to
that's a good question. If you, what does that look like if you inspect it on the page? Does it work?
Yeah, so it does. Let me just let's copy it and I'll paste it just underneath so you can see what is coming out. So,
Okay.
which makes sense. In fact,
I
you can
guess
see
it's a bit weird to see style again.
Yeah, it might be doing that because we'd already had style.
Yeah.
And as it's dynamic, so inspecting it, it's inspecting the latest version of it. So I think because it had style already.
If you reload your browser page, does it still have style in it?
If I view the source.
No, sorry, because you won't see it in the source. But if you reload the page in your browser.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Loading. Yeah, it doesn't have style. So if you refresh it, it doesn't have that anymore.
Okay.
That's gone.
I'm curious to know what happens if instead of a string you put a vector. I imagine it probably doesn't work, but you know, a vector of strings for class name.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, let's get rid of that. What's the worst thing that can happen with it?
Because I think Fulcro doesn't actually do much sort of like conversion.
You know what? I think this is. I knew it'd do that. Let's. Slide. Job. What user this time? Ah, interesting. Right.
Does it work, or does it do weird
I
stuff?
Honestly, I don't know if it works. This is what it sees inside.
Okay.
Actually, that's good. So what you see when you're inspecting is actually you're not seeing these quotes. You see quotation marks.
Okay.
So I'm glad I copied and pasted because this shows a more realistic picture. So yeah,
it just stringified the data, right, and then did it.
That syntax is wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you I guess in if we move that class name into a bigger map, you can't use this vector. You're going to have to use like a string function or a map to concatenate them together.
If let's delete the map now that we've sort of demonstrated.
The vector or the whole map.
The whole map can go.
Okay. Might as well.
I'm trying to remember the CSS classes that you use. But yeah, so there's yet another syntax for class names when it comes to HTML elements. And it's, if you put in the first argument a keyword that is dot and then the name of the class.
Like that?
And then you can add additional classes by doing more dots.
Okay.
And if you save that, you should hopefully see.
Yeah, that's done what you've said.
Cool. So that was the bit that you showed off.
Okay. I'm gonna have a wild guess at something. Maybe I've seen this in one of these. Maybe I've watched that in the demo. Yeah. So what I've just done now, it's got a class
ID.
person,
Yeah.
and it's got an ID of name.
That's cool.
What is it to get? There must be a shortcut for style as well.
I've not seen one, if there is one. It's quite complex with style, because style itself has a map as a value. But maybe there is, I don't know. What's the next thing on the list? Okay. Have you got the notes up for this week?
Yeah. So the next, how to put styles in line, and then next we've got how to use class syntax, i.e. :UI.form. Okay. And then after that we've got component options person.
So I think the next thing he did was to put the semantic UI classes on a couple of things to sort of just demonstrate that. But I assume you already know what's going to happen if we do that. So like we could probably just skip to the next bit, I guess.
Well, we could put, so UI.form is if on this stage our passing colon .ui form, and then in my page for that, what's it? It's not made an obvious change to the page layout, but that doesn't mean anything. But it has put, as we expected it in the that div class. So yeah, maybe it picked it up, but you can't obviously. It's not obvious.
I'm a little bit scared to go back to the video because it gets so laggy on my machine to check the individual class names that semantic UI need.
No problem. Can you see the meeting details? Two people. It's me twice for some reason. Because I'm presenting. Okay. I thought we might have had somebody trying to come in, but I guess not. No. Okay. Please continue.
What was it? It was... he starts talking about how that map on the component is an open map, so you're allowed to put like anything in it that isn't already used by Fulcro.
So, which map are we talking about?
Yeah, this one that you've got your cursor on.
This query here.
Yeah. So he was talking about like if you're making libraries for Fulcro, you're allowed to put like namespace keywords in there for your particular library that you might be making, and then hopefully it shouldn't conflict because it'll be a properly namespaced keyword, and you can programmatically interact with it. Then he demonstrates that call that's in the notes to fetch all of the options out of the component. So it'd be good to run that in a REPL or somewhere else that's readily available.
Okay. Just one quick question. Maybe you know this, maybe not.
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're using keyword, person ID, and like I've seen the common syntax of double quote for a namespaced version of it that's often used in spec.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why he's gone down this route and not got closer to spec on a fully namespaced?
If you do double keyword there, what would it do? It would give you app client and then mash person with client and then /ID. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't even want to try
it. He does mention namespace like that in this video, and I've forgotten what he was talking about. Oh yeah, in this feature in particular, he demonstrates just using double colon and then whatever you want to use for your library thing, so it doesn't collide with anything else. Obviously, this namespace that we have has the potential to collide anyway, because most namespace definitions in Clojure usually include like the company name or something that's unique globally. So I think the reason, I think in the wild basically you would have, if you could have like your company name, then dot, and then person, and then /ID to signify that it's your company's idea of what a person is. But in the videos he's not gone to that extent, which maybe it would have been better if he had. But then he'd have to make up a company name, I suppose.
Well, I'm not a big fan of doing it by a company name because companies often get rebranded. So
Yeah.
I try and like keep it to some kind of project name that's unique over a company name. But yeah, it's the same thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now that we're talking it out loud, yeah.
Yeah, he's not done that in the videos, but yeah, it's probably a good idea because it's, if you ever wanted to merge this database with another company's database, then you don't want to conflict.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we run that? Have you got that command for getting the options out of the component?
Let's see. I think I've lost. So running this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, we got a bunch of stuff out of that, including a new key that we haven't seen before, called render.
Oh yeah.
Render is line 6 to line 13, essentially. It's the like the macro is just, I assume, converting our HTML into this map, and then that's nestled under the render thing. If we add a new keyword in that map, we should also see it in this function call.
New keyword. Yeah. It's quite interesting that when it renders this new keyword, just a string, because I put in a string, but query, it's an object. It's not a vector. It doesn't return everything that we've got there. It because they are known to Fulcro, it actually does something with those. It doesn't know to do anything with this. Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know what those objects are, to be honest. But yeah, I know what you mean. It looks like it's done something to those things that it hasn't done to the other thing.
It must, yeah, because it doesn't know what to do with them. It's sort of like this is optional.
Yeah, it's just open map, so you can put anything in.
Yeah, I think you've got to be careful not to use a keyword that's using. So maybe, as you were saying with the project name, we could do the same sort of thing on this.
Yeah.
Wonder how that's going to play out. Yeah. Project name keyword. So you could do something like that.
Should component that. Right.
So what's the component did mount keyword and init local state?
So I think the next one is should component update.
Oh yeah, sorry, can't see that one.
Can you Google React should component update? So I think this is a React thing.
Yeah.
Which should give you a vague idea of what it's set out to try and do. But Fulcro has additional layers of optimization. Like it knows via the transaction system, it knows when a particular piece of data has updated, such that it can update only a certain bit of the tree. And React has its own optimizations for this as well, which I think is what the should component. What was it? Should component update is also doing. From my notes, I remember I've missed a bit because he mentions when you initialize the Fulcro framework, there's an optional parameter I think that you can pass in to change what he calls the renderer. So, or the rendering, like the updating strategy, I suppose. And he temporarily switches it to a less efficient renderer, and then he shows a load of console logs. Well, like he modifies the component basically so that it logs every time that it's rendered, and then he switches the rendering strategies over so that you can see what the trade-offs are and like how each bit updates. He went through a whole thing as well where like when you transact something, by default it will like update every everything that has got that bit of data on its query. It will like automatically update that for you. But he demonstrated a use case where that's not enough necessarily. So let's say you had like a person list, and outside of that person list on a higher component, you had like a count of all of the people that were over 30 is what he demonstrates. So
Yeah.
You might have 5 people and maybe 2 of them are over 30. But that higher, I think that higher component doesn't have I need to rewatch the video really. But I think it doesn't automatically update as you might expect it to, because it's not in the direct query of that component. And so there's another parameter to transact, I think, which lets you tell the system that this component over here needs to be updated on this transaction in case it doesn't automatically happen. So yeah, a lot of that rendering stuff was lost on me, and I need to rewatch it. And I can't really go back to it right now because of the lagginess stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was interesting to. I do recommend watching that stuff. That mostly covers the component did mount and the should component update stuff to a certain degree as well, because you can bits in there allow you to change certain strategies, I think. The initial local state thing he was showing off to he was using it as like an optimization if you were concerned about the anonymous functions on the on-click. So currently what happens is every time the person component renders, it sort of creates a new anonymous function, because that's how that's coded up currently. But what he recommended is that you could just define the function in that init local state, and then create the closure once instead of however many times you render, and then attach it to the on-click that way as a tiny sort of speed up, I guess. And the reason why you might want it in there as opposed to just sort of above the component is because even though you have all of these components, you might not be rendering that component all of the time, and so it only triggers when the component is actually asked for, rather than like every time that the application starts. Okay, so that's hopefully all of that stuff out of the way. I definitely need to rewatch that and go through this guide a bit better. Well, pad out this guide a bit better. Plays with idents in ways I don't understand. Yeah, he displays. He was talking about if you have like like all the components we have right now are directly attached to a bit of state in our database. But what if it wasn't necessarily attached to? So imagine we didn't have an ident for something, because it actually doesn't need an ident. Then he demonstrated, I think it was a vector of 2 keywords that you could just define to sort of uniquely identify it, but not actually be tied up to any of the querying or the database stuff directly. I mean, it kind of was still in the database, but it wasn't like hooked up to anything. Okay, yeah, this was the stuff I was quite interested in. I might need your help with the last one in terms of watching that video.
Okay.
But I remember the first bit of that is to go to your package.json file, which is a JavaScript dependency thing.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that I did yesterday was I did I put the changes that we've done so far into Git,
Yeah.
and I've got Git ignore for it.
Uh-huh.
Just want to check, like, package lock. Is that something that we need to be editing? Or is that generated for us?
You want package lock inside of your version control.
I do. Okay, I think
Yeah.
I'm probably ignoring that value. Or maybe I've just not put it in. So I'm ignoring CP cache, shadow CLKS, node modules, and then resource public JS main.js, because it's just massive. So package lockout, I do need to. Okay, thanks. Well, let's have a quick look at package lock. That's where did we? When we started this, where did we copy this from? Or was it generated for us?
It was. I don't know what this is in Java, to be honest, but
It's a bit like a move in POM.
yeah, I think so.
You're absolutely sure we need it? Because really, I thought that the depths.eden is the POM.
So deps.eden is for our Clojure dependencies.
Yeah, but oh, okay.
And then package.json is for our JavaScript dependencies.
Okay.
Because we're depending on React and React DOM and stuff. Package.json is when you run your package manager thing, it resolves what you've defined in package.json to a set of installable packages. So, like in package.json, you could have like little rules like tilde, curly. I don't know. There's certain rules about like how far you're willing to take that dependency up.
Yeah.
So like if there's a new minor version, you can say I'm willing to tolerate that bump in the version. And what package.lock does is it's a record of all of the packages that were chosen when you ran your package manager.
Well, that's good.
And so when you go to commit it, and other people bring down your code and run npm install, it should respect. It won't necessarily like go further than whoever last committed package.lock. It should stick to whatever's in package.lock to keep it some idea of it being stable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll add that dependency. So I sidetracked it then because was it package.json we were going to look at?
Yeah, we're gonna try importing a React component called, is it React format number or something like that? React number format.
It's rather strange that that Fulcro still depends on JSON. We talked about this the other day where we've got hidden JSON got CLJS, I've got HTML, but it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, so the reason why we're having to do it here as opposed to like
You heard that?
yeah.
That's not my mobile phone. That really is an ice cream.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like what Clojure does to Java, right? Where like there's a whole ecosystem out there that you still want access to.
Yeah.
And so the reason why we're working with package.json is because we still want to be good citizens in the JavaScript world, and we still want to like have access to all of that. So we're kind of having to adopt some of their bits and pieces in order to keep the peace, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can Google this. You see, there's in the JSON there's a key called dependencies.
Yeah.
We need to add a new key in there called React number format, and I'm going to try and find the latest version of it. So it says the latest version is 4.4.1.
No, I need to tilde 4.4.1. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, that should be right.
React number format.
Cool. In your terminal, can you run npm install? I'm just guessing now, but I think that'll work.
Install what? Just install?
Just install. I think it should scan your package.json and discover that it's out of date.
You just want to make sure it's good. Yeah. You can't see that I've got the terminal open, but I'm doing npm install, and it's warning no description, no repository fail. Added one package from one contributor in order to get 107 packages in 2.42 seconds. One package is looking for funding. Good luck for them. So we've got a new package installed, and you can see on my screen we've got package.doc.json. So I think that's probably the previous version, in case this new version breaks. Yeah.
It's weird to see a new one like that. It usually just updates it in place. I don't know if that's because you had it open in your buffer and then it changed out from underneath you, and then maybe Emacs made a copy.
Could be. Client's not going to see. Let's go to package lock. If I do space with table, no, space with delete. So now if I do space 0, we've still got this package like JSON.
It should be safe to delete that duplicate, I think. Assuming, yeah, it should be fine.
Okay, well, I'll save it as an exercise for later.
Alright. Okay, the next step was to get Shadow CRJS to import that new component into our client.cljs file.
Sorry, I'm a bit Emacs crazy at the moment. Yeah, okay, I'm back. Yeah, I'm okay.
Cool.
So, can you repeat that, please?
Yeah, so if you go to the top of this file, so we can have a look at our requires. I think Shadow CLJS lets you do a vector where the first element is a string that contains React number format, I think.
So, do I need to add a new require?
Yeah, because we're about to use the new component that we imported.
So, is it a Fulcro one we need to be adding?
No, it'll be, because here we're using Shadow CLJS's ability to just import anything from npm. So the first thing in the vector is a string, and inside that string is the name of the package.
Oh, okay. So this. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird, but it's just how Shadow works for this.
Like if it's something like that.
Yeah, and then and then it's the name of the class that you're given by JavaScript, which you can just camel case as number format for now, I think.
Right. Okay.
Is it camel case or is it Pascal case for classes? It's Pascal case, isn't it?
It's a possible case. So capital M.
Yeah, I think so.
Capital F.
It obviously doesn't matter, but
No, it does. Like that.
yeah, I think that's how he had it.
Okay.
Now my memory's completely, because I did that from memory, so I don't know how he actually uses it. I think, I remember he imports another thing from Fulcro called like React interop. I'll have a Google for that. Fulcro, that namespace anyway. Okay, I think it's under, let's check what we've got so far. I think it's under algorithms. And then the key is React-interop.
I need a short name for that. So interop.
Yeah. I'm just reading a web page that might have this documented. In fact, I'll have a look at the Fulcro book because that should have it. Oops. Just waiting for it to load. Have you got in the book? Can you see the section on Fulcro and React? I've got the link actually.
Oh, yeah. I can see.
My computer's been really. Oh, here we go.
Right, interop namespace includes a pre-written function for generating factors that can accept COJS maps in children and probably take the normal corrective actions. Oh, okay. Def UI thing interrupts React Factory thing. So so the example that they've got is React thing, but would be with a number format.
Yeah, React Factory. Okay, cool.
The example that they've got is with a victory example. Not familiar with victory. It looks like a chatting library.
A charting library.
Yeah.
So they've got a couple with Google Maps, with Stripe elements. Yeah.
Hold on, please. I'll be back in a second.
Okay.
Hi, I'm back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's right.
Okay, so yeah, did you find the same thing as me on the Fulcro site?
I found an example of using a Google Maps component and a Stripe component. What we can do, I think, is if we name on line 13, we give, what could we call it? Just like number format with kebab case.
Yeah.
And then I think in our person component, or any component really where we're outputting, we can call number format like it's the same way that we're calling those divs.
Okay. Do we need to pass anything to number format, like a number? Format.
What happens if
like
you?
IP.
What happens? If you just call it like that, does it work?
That's interesting. Just make sure I open up. Yeah, so like that is obviously nothing there. Like that does do something. It creates some blocks. It creates, aha.
I'm guessing it would create a number input if it's all worked correctly.
That's what it creates.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
Um,
in the chat, I've linked some React documentation for how this component works. I think, what was it? Yeah, like before we get into that, actually, if you go to the browser and you type some numbers into the number format component, you should see it start maybe putting commas and stuff in where they should hopefully go. Fingers crossed.
whilst I'm inside the field, and when I go away from the field, no, it doesn't format it at all. I think maybe you have to tell it what
yeah, maybe.
To format it.
Try format passing. Yeah, what does he use? I can't remember. So, try passing 1,000 separator as true.
Is it?
I think the key.
Should that be a map?
Yeah. So I think the first argument to number format will be a map. Then it will be a. I'm guessing here, but a key of 1,000 separator.
Yeah.
As camel case, but as a keyword. And then I think the value would be true.
Yeah. Right, let's see what is produced. Yeah. So 1,000 separator, it puts the commas in the right place.
That's quite cool.
And when I inspect it, the value includes the commas in 1,000 separator.
Okay.
So when you submit it, I think you'll probably. Well, I don't know because it's got input mode numeric, so it might correct it on submission.
On the documentation for that React component,
yeah,
it mentions a value object. I'm not sure how to extract it yet, but the value object has keys of like value, formatted value, float value. So I think it's possible programmatically to.
So I'm going to give it another one, decimal scale, and I'm going to give it a value of 2. So now that I've refreshed that, what did I save? Did I save it? Yeah, I've saved it. But it's not taking any notice of decimal scale. That's strange. So let's check the value of decimal scale again. In the documentation, there's decimal scale, it's a number. It defaults, if defined, it limits to given decimal scale. There's also fixed decimal scale.
Do you remember?
I know. Yeah, I know why. Okay. So if I go back to my thing and manually put in. Yeah, I've put in 0.99 and it fixes it. If I use the value fixed decimal scale is true, so fixed decimal scale, I'm going to set that to true.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll force the, yeah. So decimal scale puts it to 2 decimal places, but won't show it unless you start using decimals. Fixed decimal scale will show those
All the time.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Okay. That's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, because that library doesn't know anything about us as consumers. Like, it doesn't know it's in ClojureScript land. It's just a normal React thing that somebody's written. Do you remember the name of the guy who runs the JavaScript meetup?
Yes, I do. His name's Adam. But it's something like Adam, something like Adam Burton. What do you ask?
There we go, yeah. Because I remember he tweeted something maybe a couple of weeks now. I just wanted to get back to. It was like a big UI framework for React.
Adam Butler.
Yeah, that's the one. I found his account. I'm just slowly scrolling.
I can guess he's the kind of person who tweets a lot.
Yeah.
I don't tweet anything because I don't want to upset anybody. I find 140 characters. I could quite easily upset a lot of people unintentionally.
I mean, that's kind of what Twitter is, isn't it?
I'm often scared to actually like something just in case liking something upsets somebody.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, Twitter.
With the amount of problems going on in the world at the moment, I wish a lot of people would not tweet so much.
There'd be nothing to read if there wasn't, well, just like sensible long form stuff. And
yeah,
you're right. He tweets a lot more than I imagined. Or maybe I've just scrolled past it.
No, I can imagine him tweeting a lot.
Because he's making a meetup competitor, isn't he? So he's talking a lot about that.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
It seems good for . But the problem is Meetup has a lot of traction, so everyone goes there.
Yeah. But the good thing is, the one good thing about Meetup is we're not on Facebook.
That's true. Yeah, I don't have a Facebook account, so that would be good.
Neither do I. So maybe there's a lot of tech people meeting via Facebook.
I found it.
Okay.
Right, that's crazy.
Did you just have to keep scrolling?
I scrolled past it. It's taking forever to load anything. So what I'm going to do is, I've put their Twitter account on.
Yeah.
On chat, but you should be able to click through to their main website. My computer's slowly getting to the main website.
Chakraui.com.
So this is a component library for React to do all sorts of UI type things. But the fact that we've just gained the ability to import React components into our Fulcro app means that we could use any React component really, but this might be a good thing to look at just for general UI use.
Okay. It says composable, that's the right thing about it. Code components for React app should be at speed.
I don't know how. If you click a particular component at the top, it will have you can import certain things from the package. So in this example that I'm looking at, you can import like a list or a list item or a list icon from the Chakra core stuff.
So I've gone to list.
Yeah.
Import. Okay, from Chakra.
Because we need to figure out
how to import that into our React application.
Yeah. Because with the React number format, I think it was a module or a class that we got out of that. Whereas this thing is giving us 3 things associatively by the looks of it. So we'd probably have to check Shadow CLJS's syntax for like taking out the list, for example. But yeah, we could just, once we've done that, I think we can just sort of use it as is.
So these icons in the list icon, that's got to come from within Chakra itself. They must be predefined. Well, properties, style type, style position, space. Yeah. Okay. So why was Adam saying about Chakra? What's Chakra giving us?
He was talking about it from a React.js component point of view. And he was just saying it was a really good, like semantic UI and Bootstrap and all of those kind of things. So it's kind of yet another one of those. I think, well, he seemed to really like it, which is probably quite a good indication that it's good. But also the fact that it's React, like it's built in React components as opposed to just CSS and JS, means that it's quite easy for us to just, given that we've just learnt how to import a React component, just makes it quite easy for us to import. As opposed to just sort of like including random bits of JavaScript. Which is still viable as well, but just thought I'd point it out.
This is interesting. I'm looking at Avatar.
Okay.
Yeah. I quite like this. So the one thing I don't like the property, surely with the avatar you'd want to be able to click on the avatar to go to the user's page.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not got an example for doing that. And the SRC is for the image itself rather than a link to something.
Yeah. In the React world, it's kind of like once you have these React components, you're kind
Yeah.
of playing this game where you pretend you're in HTML, and so what you could do with that avatar is just wrap it in an anchor tag like you normally would in HTML, and then
Yeah.
you can click it, so
Oh, okay.
things compose like that
Okay.
into a tree.
Chakra's got its own button. What? Okay. And you can also use icons. If you click on button, that's also got React icons. So, oh, that might be interesting. Yeah. Wow. I mean, we're supposed to have yeah, us Lisp people are supposed to have a topic, but yeah, there's so much of so many different libraries in the JS world. Wow, it's a full-time job just to keep up with them all. Wow, but this is fabulous. So yeah, we can. So what do you want to do? Do you want? Oh, it's 8 o'clock. So I think
we hit all the things that I remember from that video. I did sort of breeze over a lot of the bits I did not quite understand, so it'd be. I'll update the guide at some point.
Okay. If you can work out how to like import chakra through npm, well, I can have a look at that as well. Then it might be nice to see if either of us can pull up a avatar or a badge or some icons.
Yeah,
and see what we can do with that. That would be quite fun. But yeah, I need to catch up on the videos, and hopefully we can start adding a database.
In the Chakra getting started, it's got an npm install, and then
I didn't see that. Okay.
Everything that you need. So you would run that on the terminal. The only missing part that I can think of is I don't know how Shadow works when you've got multiple things that you want to pull out of a module.
But that's got npm installed, but don't we want to be putting that inside our package.json file?
So running npm install and asking it for stuff I think will add it to this file for you automatically.
Okay, you don't think it'll add it to the package lock instead?
I think it will add it. It will add it to both.
To both, okay.
I think so. I think technically earlier we could have done npm install React number format, and I think that would have worked.
Okay. I'll tell you what. As the last thing then, try do buffer delete close that, and if I just list my buffers, I've not got any of the JSON things open. I'm going to switch to my terminal. I'm going to just try and import Chakra, and then I'll reopen both of those JSON files. What do you say? Do you think that's a...
Yeah, it'd be cool to look at.
Okay. So yeah, I'm doing install Chakra UI /core, emotion /core, emotion styled, emotion theming. And it's busy extracting all those. I did 106 packages, but it's done now. The thing that I do worry about all these remotes is like, what happens when these die out? If Chakra closes, But is it still inside the NPM?
It is.
Light?
Yeah.
Okay, so it won't be lost. Right, so there's my package documentation. So let's see. Yeah, look at that. It's added but not closed. So yeah, they're available for us to play with. Maybe next week I'll have a play and then maybe show you some icons.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'll try and prepare for whatever's in the video next, as opposed to.
And I'll try and catch up with the videos.
Yeah.
Hopefully things that might be a bit quieter for me this week. Okay, that's brilliant, Adrian. I think it's been another interesting evening of Fulcro.
Cool.
Okay, see you next week.
I'll see you next week. Have a good week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.